everyone. So great to see so many of you here tonight, so many people that I know quite well, and some I'm just getting to know, and some new people. So thank you for coming. Tonight we're celebrating our very first anthology, the day that changed everything. We're going to start with some readings from each of some of the authors. We have 18 authors in the book, and we'll have this selection of authors here tonight sharing a little bit from their excerpts from their book. A little bit about Memoir Mentors. We began in 2020, early in the pandemic. Like many of you, I was really struggling to find um, connection. I was in a country that was not my own and didn't have very many people near me who I knew. So I was feeling pretty isolated. And I started attending all kinds of writing meetups online and was naturally drawn to people who were also writing memoirs like I was. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a place where we could all just write about memoir, just talk about memoirs and not have sometimes there's some shame and fears associated with writing memoir that is quite different from if you're writing fiction or fantasy per se. So I started Memoir Mentors back in the middle of the pandemic, back in 2020. And since then, it's been really a joy getting to know so many beautiful authors and writing alongside them and having this community really grow. Some people here have been here since the beginning, and some are quite new. And I just wanted to do something special to celebrate having 5 years of us meeting together. And so I thought how nice it would be to have an anthology with all of our stories. So for you memoirists who are here, thank you so much for having the bravery and courage to write a story and share it with us, with the world, and with the anthology here. And for those of you who are here to support your memoirists, support your friends, your family, thank you so much. I think you probably don't realize how much it means when we write memoirs. We're one of the biggest fears we have. Is what others are going to think about us, about our writing. And I know it also can be scary for people who know memoirists and might be worried about what they might look like in their stories. Um, but you are here today, and we really, really appreciate that. So thank you so much for honoring our stories, our truths, and the voices behind them. So we'll get started with our first reader, Karen Ablaze, also known as Parchin. Karen Ablaze is the nom de plume of the person now called Parchin Hune. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Sorry, Parchin. I never said your name out loud. They started writing fanzines whilst at school and later moved into freelance journalism, copywriting, and eventually fiction. They're the author of two books, fanzine anthology The City is Ablaze and Revolution on the Rock, their debut novel. A lifelong creative and activist, they have worked in the music industry, played in bands, and more recently received ordination as a Buddhist nun. Now at the start of a new life in Ireland, they are working on a memoir called Returning, a personal journey into Ireland's landscape, language, and ancestral ties. Their writing explores creativity, spirituality, resistance, and the realities of ableism, using storytelling as a tool for illumination and change. Is Parchin here? Yes, she is.
Hi.
There you are.
Thank you for that lovely introduction, Christine.
You're very welcome.
That's great. Yeah, my second name is pronounced he knew.
He knew. Okay. Sorry about that.
Writing has been ablaze for a long time. So this is part of my contribution to the anthology. Due to time restraints, I'm not going to read the whole piece. And actually, I have to let you know in advance that I'm going to end it on a horrific cliffhanger. So here we go. The Ghost Village's Last Souls. A walk on the dark side of rural Portugal. Somewhere in the Cauldron Mountains, on a hill, surrounded by 100 other hills, there is a settlement with a population of 4. Ruined houses lurch under the weight of lichen. Few have roofs. Electricity cables lope from pole to pole, supplying just 2 homes. None receive mains water. That comes from taps out in the stony streets. You just have to carry it home. Rui lives in a one-room shack at the far end of the village. He has a good head of hair for a man in his 60s and somehow, despite not having a bathroom, keeps it dyed a shiny shade of black. His main job is drinking. The driving license long gone, each day he wobbles up and down the hills on a creaking bike, his destination the cafe where old fellas booze their way through hot afternoons. He lives here in the village under the patronage of Alberto, the village elder who owns most of the land. Alberto has a round face and twinkling eyes, tends his orchard in the sunshine, and constructs whirligigs to scare away the birds. He grew up in an age when the village thrived, fully populated, a strong collection of farms. One by one, the young people left for the city, to Faro or Lisbon, swapping rocky fields for grey apartment blocks and paying work. At some point in his 90 years, he became the only resident in town, so Rui's company would have been welcome. Later, he was joined by a goat herder called Kiao, Jessica, a teacher from the north, and then we arrived, the foreigners. Many things happened. My partner became my ex, and the goat herder grew to take great delight in terrorizing me with noise, vandalism, and animal corpses, because he knew I was on my own. But that's a horror story for another day. There's a feeling that Alberto might leave. Jessica talks about it. Should he really be here on his own at his age? Yesterday I saw his nephew's van appear in the village and depart shortly after. It's plausible he might have collected Alberto and whatever he has, leaving his two cats howling in hormonal turmoil, and Rui to his own devices, which perhaps aren't many, and none of them good. If that's the case, then we are three. Rui always has dogs. They never live for long. We encountered two adorable, starving and desperate hounds when we came to view the house and intended to help look after them. By the time we moved here, it was too late. They were gone. Then there was little Rufino, who ate an old rabbit head that he found in a field, presumably poisoned. When he died, I cried as if I'd lost a child. So my heart collapsed when I saw Rui's new puppy. It came bounding over, so low to the ground, so delirious with life. Oh God, the poor little thing. I let her jump on me, played with her, and named her Nancy. Soon she was pregnant by Jessica's slavering hellhound. A newborn pup was discovered in a plastic bag suspended from a tree by the lake. Jessica found him just in time. My ex fed the poor thing milk with a pipette and miraculously secured him a place in a shelter, though they're always overflowing. He's in Northern Europe now, the destination of so many rescue animals from Iberia. I've seen a photo of him on Facebook wearing a neckerchief and smiling. The other puppy Rui kept. In months, the baby boy grew large enough to threaten to knock me over, just like his demonic dad. Rui feeds him, but does not extend the same mercy to the mother Nancy. Her bones protrude under raggedy golden fur. Jessica began feeding her along with her own dogs, and soon Nancy was pregnant again, this time perhaps by her son. Last week she disappeared and returned empty-bellied, her teats unsucked. I wanted to know, where are the puppies? Da, da, da.
Oh,
You have to buy the book.
yes, yes, you have to buy the book. Um, it's I know the ending, so I'm not going to say anything else about it. But I wondered, um, you also wrote fiction before you wrote memoir, and I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about how is that different or the same, or which one's easier for you?
Um, Maybe fiction is easier because you've got more distance from the character, and then because they live entirely in your imagination, it's easier to construct the story. Excuse me. What I find when I'm writing memoir is that I'm writing sort of concurrently with living it. So it's actually the story's all over the place and I end up with like 1,000 different pieces and nothing's tied together. It's yeah, it's a completely different game.
Yeah, you can't control where the story goes when you're writing memoir, can you?
Yeah.
Do you find that writing memoir um, helps you kind of make sense of things that happen in your life?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a therapeutic element to it. Um, and also, I like the idea of applying a plot to your own life. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, so I kind of have I'm superimposing a narrative arc on what's going to happen to me next.
Yes, yes, I like that about it too. Is this piece going to appear in your memoir, or is this a standalone?
Yeah, it's a standalone piece. I feel like I could expand it because I have a lot of stories about the village. So it's interesting coming back to it now because I wrote it a while ago and thinking, all the different directions that I could take it in. But yeah, the memoir that I've been working on is all about my time in Ireland um, and like my family ties there and my life there as a disabled person.
Mhm. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I'm really excited to hear more of your stories. Always love hearing your voice and your stories. Great combination. So thanks, Parchin.
Christina.
All right, next up we have Brenda Arnold. Brenda Arnold recently published her new book, The Road to Somewhere, where she recounts how a year in Spain inspired her to move to Germany to join her future husband. Her memoir recounts the ups and downs of integrating or not and raising two daughters bilingually. She publishes a blog called Expat Chatter and a podcast by the same name about the ongoing adventure of living abroad. For even after decades of living in Germany, the sight of a traditional Bavarian village elicits exclamations of delight from her. At least now that her two daughters live in Berlin, she is spared their dramatic eye rolling in response. Stop saying that, they plead. We're from here. But she's not, and never ceases to find something new and exciting. And Brenda is going to read. This is definitely from her book.
Yeah. Actually, thanks very much for that, Christina. Actually, it's funny. This is kind of the story that's missing from my memoir. I got some questions. It's like, well, how did this come about? It's like, oh, I forgot to put that in there, didn't I? So this is a very good opportunity to sort of fill a gap in in my memoir. Yeah, the blind date. My cheeks were burning with embarrassment, the way they do when someone has just uttered a truth you had been hiding from yourself. Now there was no denying it. He laughed out loud. Just wait till Steve calls and finds out you don't want to see him anymore. Hearing my friend Michael say this made the idiocy of the situation clear. My idiocy, to be exact. I had just informed my friend confidently that when Steve finally called, I would resolutely inform him that it was over. My relationship with Steve had been deteriorating steadily over the months, and he was calling less and less. At age 21, I was not yet confident enough to pick up the phone and call him to figure out what was going on. So I waited and waited. But he was not going to call. This pronouncement from my best friend made something snap inside of me. It was time to put this guy behind me. It was December. I was about to head home to my family in northeastern Ohio for Christmas, a welcome respite from my heavy load of college courses, and the simmering heartbreak of knowing I would never see Steve again. Fuck him. It's over. I don't need you at all. And have yourself a lousy little Christmas while you're at it. These thoughts circled around and around in my head, the whole bus ride home, changing buses in Pittsburgh at 3 a.m. on an icy winter night did little to lift my spirits. Little did I know that a far greater escapade lay just ahead of me. I arrived home to the usual Christmas scene. My mother was already showing signs of the annual stress triggered by holiday preparations, on top of her year round irritation with my father. My father, for his part, was permanently fatigued from working two jobs and looked older with every visit. And then there was the blanket of snow everywhere in the freezing Ohio winter, the driveway, threatening to suck in the tires of any car that dared to drive down it. Welcome home, I thought. But the full-blown holiday tension brought on by the presence of the whole family had not set in. It was still nice to be back. The asphyxiating cloak of my teenage existence had not yet descended upon me, something I could always count on, no matter how long I stayed away. Subjected to the whimsical ire and barbs of my mother, the delight at being home would inevitably flip into counting down the days until I could leave again. The note. It was from Cynthia, my little sister. She had taken a phone message for me and was very proud of it. Cute German guy visiting the bees. Touring Cleveland. Please call Debbie back. Details. See Cynthia. I held the note in my hand, debating. I had shared the story of my breakup with Cynthia and figured this was just a ploy to cheer me up. The bees was our nickname for a befriended family whose summertime open houses were a weekly fixture in our lives, particularly because they had a pool, tennis court, and a barbecue pit. But however well-intended this overture was, I wasn't keen on meeting anyone new just yet. Just dinner, why not? Cynthia protested, trying to coax me. I met him and he seems really nice. At that moment, my mother walked into the room and sighed, one of her deep, I'm pissed off again sighs at some transgression by some family member. Maybe going out for dinner wasn't such a bad idea after all. If this guy was a loser, so be it. It was a night out. Besides, when I was living at home, I had rarely ventured out beyond our suburb and didn't know Cleveland at all. When I returned Debbie's call, she told me they planned to go to a trendy restaurant in Coventry, a well-known neighborhood. Well known, that is, by everyone but me. My mother let me have the car for the night, and I set out for the bees. We would all meet there and go in Debbie's car. When I walked into the house, everyone greeted me with a big smile and a hello. Everyone, that is, except the German guy, Michael, that I was being set up with. Maybe this was a mistake after all.
Love it. So that was not in your memoir?
No.
Oh, that's a pretty important part of your memoir.
Yeah, it is. That people pointed that out to me. I'm like, oh, oops. You're right.
Isn't that one of the hardest things, I think, about memoir is trying to decide what to put in, what to keep out, and assuming that the reader knows everything that you know.
Yes, absolutely. And people say, "Oh, well, how do you fit it all in?" It's like, no, it's a matter of it's cherry picking, right? Do all of these little bits make sense when you string them together? That's very tricky.
Mm-hmm. What do you have any tips for how you did choose what to put in?
Huh. Yeah, I think if you ask 10 writers for their formula, you'll get 10 different formulas.
Yeah.
I made an outline and did chapter by chapter. And yeah, and then I started weeding out a lot, a whole lot. Of course, it's my first book, so it was very tough to do that. But as a friend of mine who teaches creative writing told me, you learn how to write books by writing books, like anything else. So
Did you have
you
any
just have to go
training?
for it, and you can just. It's kind of like clay when you make a statue. You just you have to massage it and move it around, and you can always edit later. The important thing is to put something down.
Yes. Yes, you can't edit a blank page.
No, no.
Did you have any training in writing before you started?
Well, I wrote for companies. I worked in corporate communications for 20, 25 years. So in a sense, yes. I think also when you're living in Germany or in any non-English speaking country, one of the things you learn is to change your language so that non-English speakers, non-native English speakers can understand what you're writing. And you take out sort of flamboyant words. So it was fun to write my memoir because, like, no, I'm writing this for an English language audience. I can put in any word I want. So
And
I've been
so,
writing my whole life, basically.
yeah. And aren't you're writing a new book now, right?
Yes, I am. I'm writing a guidebook for foreign parents of children in German schools because the German schools are, let's say, over-engineered, and
Mm,
anyone who reads my memoir will find out that I we had some huge problems with the German school system, and I want to spare other parents the pain.
great. How far have you just started that pretty recently, I think. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, I do an annual workshop for parents at the Volkshochschule, which is the adult education center here in Minnesota. So I already have an outline, and I wanted to finish the German version of my memoir first.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, but the book is definitely the outline is already there. I need to flesh it out.
Great. I imagine your second book will go faster, so I've heard. So
No
good luck.
question.
All right.
Definitely.
Thanks, Brenda.
Thank you.
And next up, we have Bauman. Bauman Zangi studied computer science and later worked in technology field, but writing has been a way for him to listen more closely to feeling and remembrance. Inspired by the loss of his father, this piece is not only about grief, it reflects on memory, distance, and the way emotions change over time, how moments return, softened, and reshaped by the passing years. Bauman was born in Iran and left the country at the age of 27. Living away from where he began has influenced how he remembers the past and how meaning quietly evolves. Through writing, he explores what remains, the persistence of memory and the changing nature of emotional connection. Bauman?
Hi everyone, thank you for introduction. Before I start reading this piece, I honestly I didn't know that I can read that much, so probably I would have choose a longer text. But anyway, maybe this is good because I can take time and now also before I begin reading, mention the situation going on in Iran and the people have been uh, giving their life for freedom. So I think it's worth to mention that every one of us has a responsibility to take this as a humanitarian act and not ignoring it.
Mm.
And that's my take, and I'm happy to read this piece for you. So, memories are like the scent of flowers. When we inhale them, they carry us back to places we once knew. But as time goes by, they change their form, fading into something softer, less distinct, until we can only recall a vague picture of what once was. As time passes, we go on, carrying our memories as an armor against the cruelty of the world and our kindness as a small rebellion against it. We become caretakers of our own fragile hearts, protectors of the memories we have made. And in doing so, we honor not only those we have lost, but also the parts of ourselves that we must let go to keep moving forward. The pieces we miss, the pain we carry, they are not simply reminders of what we have lost, but also testaments to the courage it takes to love in a world that can be both beautiful and brutal.
Thank
So,
you.
thank you.
Um, I really appreciate in your writing, you always have you can tell from your writing that you do um, a lot of thinking and you really have deep emotions. And I love how you explore them in such a um, moving and kind of curious way. I wondered, since you work in IT, which is quite far from this sort of writing, I think, what made you decide to start writing?
Writing for me wasn't something that I picked like recently. I've been writing also in Persian Farsi for a long time, but not a serious writing. It was like casually writing some memories, or I don't know, noting the important event, let's say, in my life. As a result, this helped me to somehow structure and explore the feelings that came through the writing. And honestly, the first time that I thought seriously about writing in English was when I joined the club. And the reason I joined the club was due to the events in my life, as I mentioned in this, also writing the story of soul. I lost my dad, and this had a moment of uh, point in my life that I need something very strong to recover. And the only thing that really helped me to do this recovery and go through these emotions was writing. So, and the moment could not be forgotten, as I mentioned here. It can be changed throughout time. And this happens to, I think, most of our feelings and memories. And
Did you find that writing also changed the way that you felt and the way that you looked at what happened?
absolutely, yeah. Because the moment that you just get the news, you're in some kind of a state of the shock. So you're shocked. You're numbed for I think a couple of weeks, maybe months for some people, maybe years. You're numbed out, and to be able to come back to the reality is to just trying to understand what's going inside you. And it's just not for loss of someone you love. It's also about love when you have, I don't know, breakups or whatever. This kind of process is, I think, going and on in our guts. And then sometimes when you start writing, this just cooks in, and then you come up with the new perspective of whole thing inside you.
Hmm.
This is what the writing do to me. It's
Yeah.
kind of stewing it and then putting on the, I don't know, in an oven for a couple of hours, and then you have a delicious meal.
Yeah, I love that. I love that analogy. That's great. You're also really good at finding these analogies and little um, metaphors in your writing, I've noticed. Is that something that just comes naturally to you? I guess if you've read and written poetry, that probably influences.
Nature of the from where I come from, because in Farsi and in Persian you have lots of poetry, and
Mm.
poetry is like part of our culture. We grow up with it. And this is not something that you are unfamiliar with. So coming up with this kind of, let's say, pointing out this kind of, let's say, idiomatic situation is somehow natural. It's not like something that you don't understand. It's come just like this.
Oh, that's really cool.
And I think that I hope that after Iran frees from this Islamic regime, that everyone can come and see that how beautiful and how different is what they see from the pictures, and how great is this nation and their culture. And I hope that can be propagated around the world after this old things goes away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you
Hope,
for listening.
hope to see more of you. We've missed you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a little bit busy, so I hope that I will get time in the future to join more and be more active in the community. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, great. Okay. Next up, we have Sylvia. And sorry, just a second. Somebody is in the waiting room, and I'm trying to find here we go. Okay. Sylvia Clare is a writer, speaker, poet, family therapist, and mindfulness practitioner. She holds a BA honors degree in psychology, an MSc in research psychology, and an MA in creative writing. Her professional qualifications include MBSR, professional development training, a certificate in family therapy, a certificate in couples counseling, and an advanced diploma in hypnotherapy. She's a poet, mother, wife, friend, mindfulness teacher, survivor, gardener, and is still curious. Sylvia is the author of many books, including her memoir, No Visible Injuries, plus 5 other memoirs. Her other books include Releasing Your Child's Potential, now updated as Who Will I Become?, 4 poetry volumes, and other books on various topics surrounding emotional literacy and mindfulness. Her 2 most recent books, both memoirs, are The Mindful Gardener and Traveling the Alphabet Geographically. Find out more at Medium and Clarity Books. I've dropped that link in earlier, and you should be able to get to her links there. So, Sylvia.
Hello.
You started out with a little reflection.
I did, yes, because I think because the bit you just read out is not the same as everybody else's. I didn't realize it wasn't the same as everybody else's until I read the books. So I wanted to sort of say that for me, memoir writing and reading is a voyage of discovery into human resilience. We all experience challenges, writing them down, and then how we manage them, how we address those challenges, what happened afterwards, are the really important parts of the story. Otherwise, we risk getting mired in our own misery, when much of the point of life, as I see it, is that we learn and grow constantly. We find realizations about ourselves, our strengths and vulnerabilities, and our readers can follow in our footsteps and hopefully find inspiration in our triumphs. We can be role models for others who might otherwise be stuck. Of course, some people don't want to grow and heal. That is their choice. A good memoir shows there is no rescue from others, only our own resources to develop and learn from. If we never face the hardest challenges for each of us, we never learn how truly strong and amazing we can each be. Memoir brings this to life in a similar way to some fiction, but serves as a record of true lives lived. Writing about something that occurred over 40 years ago can rekindle old feelings and give us a new opportunity to examine them and put them to rest, to reframe them and recognise our part in them too sometimes. And that's what happened to me with the piece I'm going to read now. When you know it's over. This is the end of my first marriage. My mother-in-law was of the opinion I wasn't good enough for her son because I gave him salad to eat in winter, because I didn't run around after him like she did. He wasn't my little soldier. He was my partner, supposedly. She would buy IQ tests for us to complete, then another test when my scores consistently came out higher than his did. Then it was because I was 6 years younger and he'd lost more brain cells, and if we were the same age, he could beat me hands down. It was semi-constant. I found it slightly funny and didn't take it seriously. We got through Christmas Day. I kept up a good act. When it got too much for me, I retreated to the bedroom with Ben, who was 7 months old by now, nearly 8. My mother-in-law loves to parade that she gets on with my mother, knowing that I don't. It's one of her one-upmanship contests. I never found mother-in-laws easy. Must be something about the men I choose to marry. Perhaps mothers generally are something I'm averse to, even though I love being one myself. It's Boxing Day evening. I wrap my body around my sleeping boys and promise them they will never face what I went through. They will always know they are loved, no matter what. I pull myself away from them and join my husband and the 2 mothers in one of the sitting rooms. My father-in-law has made the other room too hot for us all with his roaring fires, and he's watching a TV show no one else wants. He's my mother-in-law's marriage down, one she always liked to tell me about. I married beneath me, she would say, until I responded, just like me then, we do have so much in common. Daggers flew from her eyes that day, but she never repeated her comment about her own marriage. It was chaos after the Second World War, and people married whoever they found themselves with. There was a shortage of bachelors with so many dead. My mother begins. She does so obliquely to start with, complimenting my husband on what a wonderful dad he is. He takes care of the 3-year-old Matt while I look after Ben, the baby. His mother agrees, crowing with pride. Mother now has her on side. My husband looks all puffed up with a smug smile on his face. Then she starts. My own mother. The long list she's been totting out for my whole life with minor age-related adjustments. She's targeting with me with as much venom as she can muster without giving herself away. How lucky I am to have a husband like Roger. He is so handsome, that's a matter of opinion, her way of saying how ugly I am. I don't really deserve him. I'm a useless mother if I need help with one child while I look after the other. I manage on my own most of the time anyway, plus I work part-time teaching to make up the income we need, and for my own headspace. Matt still doesn't sleep through the night, waking roughly every 3 hours and needing attention to get him back to sleep. Roger does some of that. Ben is sleeping better than his older brother already, but still needs a top-up bottle around midnight. It gets to 9 o'clock. I decide to go to bed knowing I might get 3 hours undisturbed. I'm getting to the point where I might say he'll do something that gives them more ammunition against me. When I announce this, I get, "Oh, you're so sensitive, so oversensitive. Can't you take a joke? Can't you take some honesty? Can't you take your husband being praised?" from my own mother. I look at my husband. He's oblivious to this. He's still basking in the glow of his own praised up self. "You're a real sport, aren't you? It's Christmas. You keep sulking in the bedroom." I look at Roger once more. He doesn't even look in my direction to see if I'm all right. He's still preening his ego. Something goes cold inside me. A shutter goes down, a drawbridge going up, a knife cutting through whatever bonds we still have. I stand up and leave the room. I look at my babies, both asleep briefly at the same time. I lie down. I can't sleep. I'm exhausted. I can't cry. I'm frozen inside, locked in for self-protection against letting any of them see my vulnerability. Roger comes through an hour later. I demand he take us all home immediately. "I can't. Your mother's car is behind ours. We're going tomorrow afternoon anyway. Do you have to make a scene right now?" I don't want to spend another minute here with those two. Why? What have they done wrong? You really don't know what went in there? Both mothers plumping you up like a spoilt little prince and putting me down in every word, either directly or indirectly. Well, I realise you will never stand up for me. You will never be there for me. I can never trust you again. It's not like it's the first time you've let me down and treated me like this, but it's the last. Roger's face suddenly changes. A realisation creeps into his thoughts. A brief recap of the evening's conversation. The lights go on. He moves towards me. "It's over. Too late to start apologising. You can't seem to see what's happening under your own nose, and I pay the price for it, again and again and again." "Well, I'm not going to ask your mother to." I turn away. He's having a paddy, stamping his feet at the situation as if that will make it go away. He doesn't want to know he messed up. He's a child. He has never grown up, never learned to take responsibility for anything or anyone. He gets into bed and goes to sleep. I do not. I wait for the first child till the first child wakes up and cuddle them as if my life depends on it. Perhaps it does. Then the other wakes, and I have one on each arm, soothing them both back to sleep. They are both great cuddlers.
Is this piece from your memoir, or is this a
No.
standalone?
No, this is a standalone piece. I didn't want to put too much negativity in No Visible Injuries. And to be honest, my first marriage wasn't a huge part about it. It wasn't a huge part about it. And when I just said, "When you know it's over," it just came to me that was the moment. That was a kind of like a lightning flash moment, a sort of realization. It's over. I can't do this anymore with him, you know. And it took me another 2 or 3 years to leave for various reasons, partly because he had an operation that went seriously wrong and he was very ill and needed nursing and everything like that. So I wasn't unkind, but I just knew that I couldn't stay with him. And as you all know, I'm now with the wonderful David Hughes, and I have been for nearly 30 years, and that's been a gloriously wonderful delight that makes me laugh all the time.
Yeah.
As you will probably find out later, because I think he writes about me in his piece.
Did you find the story was hard to write?
It was, but it made me realize that I was possibly rather oversensitive at the time myself for various reasons and very good reasons. But nevertheless, it came, the rest of that piece explains some of the background. Like I had the beginnings of postnatal depression coming on, and I'd asked him not to go down to stay with his parents for Christmas, knowing that it was going to be the two mothers there, and that I wasn't really in a state to cope with it, and he wouldn't listen. And so it was kind of it was a whole raft of things after that, before that as well. So that's very kind, Anna Maria. So it was a very, I've never regretted. I was so relieved when I made that decision. Actually, I was so relieved, and I felt it was absolutely right. But I was sad about it as well, because I'd put 14 years into trying to make it work, and it hadn't worked, and it wasn't going to. It was never going to change. But yes, I was able to recognize my vulnerability at that time, which perhaps I'm a little bit more robust nowadays. I don't know. And I don't blame him so much now. I recognize what his mother was like as well.
Yeah, time changes these things,
It
and
does. And I think
you're
that's
right about
the
that.
value of memoir. When you're the writer of it, that's the value of memoir. But a lot of my memoirs are very happy ones as well, you know. They're not all
Speaking of,
bad ones.
yeah, you've got 6 memoirs,
I have.
and you've said you're done with memoir.
Well, I'm done with writing any
Books.
more books. I really want to start publicizing the most recent one, which is Traveling the Alphabet Geographically, because it is a story about my transition from being a traumatized teenager to being a really kind of world traveling adventurer, independent, even though I'm married, independent traveler, and someone who loves life and deals with it in a very positive way, really. So I wanted to show that transition and how important traveling and the people I met and the things that I experienced and the cultures that I saw changed me massively along the way, really, really dramatically opened up my mind and my understanding of what life was about. So I'm about to do some major promotion for that. I haven't got around to it yet, but I will do.
Great.
But
Well, I'm happy
yeah.
that you keep coming back, and I know that you're still writing smaller pieces
Well,
for me.
I'm still writing up my current travels. I'm never going to
Mhm.
stop writing.
Good.
Whether I write much more memoir, I don't know, but I'm always going to write up my travels, so I'll come back with them.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for
Thank you.
sharing.
Thank you very much for listening. Thank you, everybody, for the lovely comments as well. You don't need to cry. I'm very happy now.
So next up, we're going alphabetically, so that makes me be the next up. Brenda has offered to introduce me and ask me questions afterwards. Thank you.
All right. Well, Christina is, first of all, our fearless leader. Thank you for organizing all this, Christina. I know we all appreciate it. Christina started out as a project manager in Kansas City in her former life. When life kept handing her incredible stories, she began writing her memoir, Magicians, Crossdressers, and My Uterus. In 2018, she quit her job, sold her house, and boarded a plane to Scotland with a one-way ticket. After 30 months of travel, she settled in Germany, where she's a freelance editor and website designer and leads memoir mentors. She holds a certificate in writing from the University of Iowa. She's been published in The Forge, Tomorrow's Ashes, Anthology, 100 by 100 Anthology, Volume 1, 2, and 3, The Abstract Elephant, Her Story, and Gathering, a Women Who Submit Anthology. Find out more at christina-howell.com.
Thanks, Brenda.
Thank you.
So I'll be reading an excerpt from How I Gave Up My Red Couch and Found Gemütlichkeit. One day, after a week full of mind-numbing meetings, I was having wine with my good friend Stacy. She gazed at me over her glass of Malbec and said, "You know," she paused and raised her eyebrow. "If you're serious about moving to Europe, I'll go with you. But I can't agree to moving to Germany. I haven't even been there. Maybe we could quit our jobs and travel for a year. What do you think?" Oh my God. My mind was reeling, and not from the wine. Are you serious? I'm serious if you're serious. I'm serious, totally serious, I think. I think I need another glass of wine. For months, I rolled the decision over and over in my mind. The possible future thrilled and terrified me. I had always practiced and preached the gospels of never quit a job before you have a new one lined up, and never spend more money than you can bring in. My practicality was so ingrained that it was a pillar of my personality, yet here I was, making a list, and you guessed it, a spreadsheet of ethereal pros and tangible cons. For every reason for going, things like it will give me time to write my memoir, or traveling might build my self-confidence. There were 2 or more concrete reasons against, such as questionable gap on your resume, or draining the savings account. Logically, I knew the negatives outweighed the positives, but a soundtrack of what ifs filled every moment of silence. I was 44 years old. I had a good life. It was terrifying to think about leaving my foxhole of familiarity, but I had also experienced and recovered from a few debilitating injuries. It was easy to imagine myself saying, "Oh, I can't travel now because I need foot surgery." Then it might be, "Oh, I'm still recovering from knee surgery, maybe next year." And so on until I was on my deathbed and I'd have to put in my dentures to tell the tale of the time that I had an invitation to travel the world but chickened out. Then I happened across a video where a blackboard titled "Write Down Your Regrets" was placed in New York City Square. As the blackboard filled up, a trend developed. Nearly all the regrets spoke of missed opportunities rather than actions taken. When the camera zoomed in on the phrase, "not leaving my comfort zone," my throat constricted. My throat and my heart constricted. By the end of the video, I was blinking back tears. This was the reason I was looking for. I knew in my bones that if I did not take this chance, I would regret it the rest of my life.
So do I get to ask you questions too, Christina? Yeah.
Yes.
So thanks for that. So I really wonder, so you're from Iowa,
Mm-hmm.
from Ohio, so we're both from Midwest. I know we've talked about the corn being knee-high, 4th of July, all this. So we're
Yes.
kind of from the same area. And then you went to Kansas, and I know you had a very successful career as a project manager. And we've all got to experience that because you organized all of our meetings and you edited my memoir. Thanks again for that. So what
My
do you
pleasure.
think? So many people have a dream of doing something crazy and going abroad, and very few people act on it. So what was the trigger? What was different for you? How did you left your whole family behind you, sold your house? That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, it felt crazy. What was funny is that um, I thought everyone was going to tell me that I was crazy when I told them that I wanted to do this, but very few, I think only one person really did. I was the one thinking I was crazy. I think I love traveling so much. Everyone already knew before I did, I think, that this is what I should do. And it was something it took a long time. It was so 2012 was when I first decided that I wanted to do this. And then 2018 was when it actually happened. And really, I'm not sure I would have done it if it weren't for my friend Stacy. She
So
gave me the courage.
that was the little trigger that you needed to.
Hmm.
Yeah. So apparently, so I guess so everyone else when you they weren't surprised and you said I'm packing up and leaving and they're like, finally, you're going to do it, Christina. You've been talking about this forever.
They said, "Oh, we've got a bet out about you." And I was like, "What do you mean? About when I'm gonna come back?" And he's like, "The person at work told me this." And he says, "No, we're making a bet on whether you're coming back."
Okay.
So they knew.
Okay. So maybe the people around you in a certain respect, they knew you a little better than you knew yourself.
Yeah,
Have you been back to Kansas since you came
I
to Europe?
have a couple times.
What, how does that feel and what do people say about you? It's like, oh, Christina's different now.
No, it's funny because I feel like I'm different now. And I've actually asked or said, "Well, do you think I'm different now?" And people are like, "No, you seem the same to me." Um, it is it is different going back. It's a really strange feeling to see how much has changed and yet how so much is still the same and how it seems like so long ago, but yet also um, I can't believe that I've been here in Germany now for, well, 6 years. I don't know. Math.
Believe me, the years add up fast.
Yeah.
Okay. So one final question. Um, I know you've been working on your memoir. Do you have a timeline for that? We're all dying to read it.
I always say it's going to be this year, but this year I mean it. I say that
Okay.
too. But this
Okay.
time,
All right. I've noted that down, Christina. We're going to hold you to that. So this is the year 2026.
yes, I'm making that my goal with the accountability hub that we're starting tomorrow is our first day, and I'm putting my memoir back on my priority.
Okay.
I took last year off, and now I'm ready to get back to it. So
Great.
thank you.
Great. Look forward to that. Well, good luck.
Thanks,
Good luck with
Brenda.
that.
All right, next up we have David. David Hughes is a versatile musician and writer with a deep passion for storytelling and poetry. His work has been recognized by the Fish Literary Awards, where he was longlisted for poetry, and his novel Julia earned a placement in the Isle of Wight Book Awards for fiction. David has spent years writing various genres, including crime fiction and poetry, while also writing extensively about Buddhist teachings. He frequently shares his experiences with Buddhist meditation and mindfulness on Medium and captures the quirky side of life and his Substack articles.
Hi, this is the house that changed everything. To put it in context just a bit, Sylvia and I were looking for this place where we could start a meditation center, and we've been looking for a while. And I happened to come across a picture in an estate agent's window, and it led to all sorts of consequences. Two things then happened, which we, in our innocence, we're looking at the house, by the way, a house that I found spotted. Two things then happened, which we, in our innocence and naivety, took to be positive signs that we should buy the property. One was that above the servants' door, set in the architrave, were the letters C and H. Now, these happened to be our initials, i.e. Claire and Hughes. We looked at them and smiled, not for a moment thinking that we might unwittingly become servants ourselves. The second peculiar thing was that in an outhouse was my old Honda motorbike. At first, I couldn't believe it. My old bike. What on earth was it doing there? In retrospect, logic tells me that it had to be somewhere, and why not at Clatterford House? But in that moment, it felt too much of a coincidence. Small things affect the mind when you're already looking for reasons to justify a very dubious decision. We went inside. No, let me write that again. After forcing the front door open because it had swollen in the damp, we went inside. Now, I don't know whether you've ever been in a wet, mossy forest at all, but it has a certain earthy, mushroomy smell to it, the sort that if it was sold as perfume might be marketed as eau de coffin or such like. Such was the smell of Clatterford House. The estate agent saw the look on our faces and said somewhat hopefully, "It needs airing. The owner hasn't lived here for a while." We progressed through the ruins of a once beautiful house that had been through several steadily diminishing incarnations, from a gentleman's residence in the 1700s to its final shaming as a failing public house in the last 15 years or so. The place was a shambles, full of junk and debris, with the remnants of the old pub bar still filling the corner of one room. In another, the badly made false walls were showing signs of decay. On and on it went. The back stairs were the worst. They were a real danger to life, where bracket fungus was thriving on the damp plasterwork, and the tiny twisting staircase had no rails. Dickens, had he ever written about the place, would have had Miss Havisham descending those stairs in her wedding dress, warning us to leave. Unfortunately, no such apparition appeared. Then we went upstairs, where, to add to the overall aroma, there was dog poo everywhere. "The owner has a dog," the estate agent said in an embarrassed tone of voice. I would almost guarantee that they had drawn straws at the estate agents as to who was to show us around, and she had lost. I won't describe any more. I think you get the picture. I also think you might be saying to yourself, "Please don't tell me you bought the place." Well, not at once, no. In fact, several visits later, I still thought we would be mad to go anywhere near the place, and curse myself for being the victim of Georgie Ann's temptations. It was my fault. I saw the photograph. I insisted on the visit. I tempted Sylvia with the prospect of a 13-bedroom period house from which to run a retreat centre. As it happens, I actually said no. I explained about every fault in the structure of the house. I showed Sylvia financial figures that proved it was not viable to get it up and running. I reasoned with her that I was still in full-time work and couldn't possibly take on a project of that magnitude, and Sylvia accepted. She reluctantly gave way to my honest and logic reasoning. That's what I admire about Sylvia. She's prepared to listen. Days passed, even weeks. I'm not sure how long, but let's just say time passed. One morning I was soundly asleep, comfortable in my little dreams about breakfast and playing guitar, when out of the blue Sylvia sat up in bed and shouted, "We've got to buy it!" When my heart rate finally got back to normality, I asked her what she was talking about. "Clatterford House, we've got to buy it." The dam had finally broken. Time may have passed, but her ability to lock down her desperate desire to own Clatterford House could not help bursting forth. There was no way back. She later wrote a book called The Buddha House, recalling her memories of the following years and how it affected her. Part love story, part emotional trial and tribulation. If I'd written the book, it might well have been a cross between Mr. Blanding Builds a Dream House and Cormac McCarthy's The Road. Youthful optimism meets apocalyptic reality. Let's face it, we each maintain our own reality. However, what we would agree on is that seeing and then buying Clatterford House changed everything for the next 17 years, and it changed us as people forever.
You always make me laugh, David.
Thank you.
How do you write with such humor? Oh,
I
that's a
don't.
pretty vague question, but I need to know.
Uh, I don't know. I think unfortunately it's just how I live my life. It's who I am, and so I can't help it. I see other people's stuff. That's really literary and has all this poetic stuff in it, and I'd love to write things like that, but I can't. I just always end up with this sort of crazy view of things.
Don't change. We love it.
Well, you have to have one of everything, don't you? So
You're the class
yeah,
comedian.
yeah. So
Did you have any formal training in writing?
no, no. I have written for as long as I remember. And the funny thing is that at school I was terrible. I couldn't write anything. It's only as I grew older that um, I think I realized I was writing things down because I find it difficult to express myself in social settings. If you put me in a room with sort of 10 or 12 people, then I hardly say a word. I can't manage that. Um, and so writing helps me to express myself, and then people can know how I feel. Yeah.
Um, when are you gonna when are you gonna let us read your memoir?
Mm.
I'm working on it.
Well, Sylvia's threatening to edit what I've already written, and so really it's down to Sylvia, and she does owe me a favor after Clatterford House, like she owes me a big favor.
And I know that you were writing, I think, was it even a series, like about a time traveler? I know you have one of those books out.
I have a book out, yes, and it's called Mistress Mun and the Magician, and it's slightly bawdy, and not quite your average wizard and that sort of thing. So yes, and hopefully it's quite funny.
Are you
So
writing any more fiction right now, or are you coming back to us, coming back to memoir?
I'm sort of writing memoir in a way, in the sense that I'm writing these sort of pieces. Like I read it the other night at Memoir
The
Mentors.
poets.
Yeah, yeah, about things that are just happening to me in life, which maybe if I collated them eventually, they would make a sort of a type of memoir.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm doing that. I've got two fiction books on the go.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Got two other books also published.
yeah, I've got other books published, but yeah, that's yeah, yeah.
Well, keep coming back. We love your stories. Love
Thank
your
you, thank you.
humor.
It's very kind of you. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank-
David. Okay, next up we have Anne-Marie Hussar. Anne-Marie Hussar is a Hungarian-born equestrian writer, ghostwriter, teacher, and writing instructor whose lifelong passion for horses has taken her across the globe. Driven by a deeply personal mission of processing her childhood traumas, Anne-Marie dedicated herself to creating a writing school built on strong moral values and integrity. With years of experience teaching and working within diverse equestrian communities in 7 countries, she is now settled in her home country and channels her knowledge into writing, advocating for a more ethical and supportive environment for young riders, as well as educating equestrian parents, equipping them with the knowledge needed to navigate the equestrian world. In her memoir, Riding Through Rose Fields, she sheds light on the importance of ensuring that no horse-loving child is ever mistreated, neglected, or left unheard. And she'll be reading from, this is a piece of her memoir, I believe. Mm. A powerful story. Obviously, you recovered, and this is part of your story um, of that path. Is your is this is a part of your memoir, right? And um, is your memoir? Yeah, okay. Are you done with your memoir? No. Okay. Okay. And I understand, I know that you're a ghostwriter and that you actually completed another book, a memoir for someone else in in this last year. Did you find that? How did you find writing someone else's memoir or helping them write their memoir and and writing your own? What was that experience like? Thank you. Mhm. Oh, you're welcome. I'm so glad that you're so glad you're here. Did you find that it was easier? Do you have a, is how, what is the experience for writing your own memoir? Is that difficult for you? Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. But hopefully it also can be healing. And I think it's interesting when we were talking before earlier today, and you were saying you thought that the other story was more moving, and I find your story also very moving. And we have a tendency, I think, to kind of downplay our own stories, and so I think um, that's one of the things that community can really help with is having, have other people tell you, no, your story does matter. If you see the comments, people are saying it's an amazing story. Um, so please do keep writing. I'm excited to read more. Thank you. Okay, next up we have Lisa. Lisa Harmsey is a writer from the remote alpine village of, oh, at least French words. Okay, what you just said. In the Alps Haute-Provence, where in the silence of snow-capped mountains, she raises two daughters and a myriad of small animals. A scientist turned writer, she has created space for long-buried stories to rise. Her piece, Fractured Vows Behind Closed Doors, is born from the heartbreak of discovering her husband's long-hidden infidelities. Through her work, Lisa transforms pain into meaning, reclaiming her voice, one story at a time.
Thanks, Christina. I also just want to thank you for this Accountability Hub and Memoir Mentors, because we all know it helps us all a lot. I wasn't a writer before I met you, and now I have something published. Anyway, Fractured Vows Behind Closed Doors. Summer in the French Alps sweeps vast blushes of color across the mountain fields. The summer flowers bloom in full force, and I always exclaim to my children as we drive by, "Isn't it so beautiful up here in the mountains?" Poppies, my favorite flowers of all, engulf the mountain slopes every June, my birthday month, Mother Nature's gift to me every year. We have lived here amongst the population of only a few hundred, where I don't speak the language and the locals don't speak mine, a chosen form of isolation. Aside from my girls, my only human interaction is my weekly attendance in the outside fresh food market the village holds during the warmer months, fumbling through to get what we need to live out here. The puppies are my gift for being so strong and enduring what once would have folded me and sent me packing back home, back to my Africa. There's beauty everywhere for a few weeks every year, perfectly carpeting every direction in a bright red vibrance, starting just before my birthday and dying out a few weeks after as the next flush of blue takes over. This year on my birthday, though, it was different. I sat in one of the fields amongst the poppies while my girls were at school. My skin glowed with the reflection of the reds, and I cried. Joe had forgotten. No gift, no calls, not even a text. The tears dripped down onto my arms and drizzled onto the flowers. For the first time in 20 years, I hadn't reminded him it was coming up. I turned 45 quietly, alone amongst the flowers. He must have been busy, I told myself, but I knew the truth. He just didn't care about remembering. It was me every year remembering for him, reminding him days ahead of time. This year I wanted to see if he would, if he could. He was busy. Too busy to notice in our frequent video calls the big blue bruise on the side of my ribs I had acquired as I tumbled out of bed and then down the stairs the morning of my birthday. The universe whispering painfully, "This year will hurt."
It seems so strange to me that you didn't consider yourself a writer. I remember when we first met you and you said that you weren't a writer, but you were a scientific writer.
Yeah.
And you quickly proved to all of us that you also are a great creative writer. And I'm so happy to hear that now you also are admitting to yourself that you're a writer. You have a beautiful voice.
Thank you, Christina.
I wondered if there was something, if you noticed, do you think that scientific writing did in some ways influence your creative writing and help you prepare you for writing your memoir?
I think it did. I think as a scientific writer, you have to be aware of the details. You have to take note of the details, note them down, and see what you can derive from them. And so that did help me. But I think also I had the problem in the beginning of not being descriptive enough, of not adding more words to describe situations, because as a scientific writer, you try and keep things as short and precise as possible. And so I think memoir mentors helped me a lot with the critiques in that, especially, and pointing out areas that could be extrapolated and improved on. Yeah.
Have you learned anything about yourself through writing memoir?
Yes, I've learned that it's way better to write it down than to take a tranquilizer and a glass of wine or to beat something.
Yeah, yeah.
Very therapeutic. And I think writing, especially in these past 2 years, has saved me many times.
Yeah. Does seem that life is handing you lots of stories. I'm glad you've got an outlet. Um, What do you think the hardest part of writing is for you?
Sitting down and starting.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's gotten easier with the help of booking in these scheduled sessions, like joining the Accountability Hub and joining Memoir Mentors every Thursday. And then I have specific times when I have to show up because I've signed up. And over time, I think this has helped me make the transition to get to my desk and just open it up easier. And now I find myself, when I have a thought, sitting down, opening up, and just adding that to the book. Yeah. So habit stacking, I guess.
Good, good. When you began writing, you were writing actually a different memoir, and
Yeah.
then life happened, and you've actually shifted
I,
gears.
I
I know at
started
first you
writing
struggled.
about I started writing about my growing up in Zimbabwe, because I got really sick with COVID, and I remember my English teacher in Form 1 telling us that we all had to write a book because we were educated. It was our duty. And when I got sick with COVID, I thought, my God, I haven't even done that yet.
Mm.
So I didn't have a story. I thought memoir would be so easy. I'll just write my life growing up.
Did you find it easy?
No, I think it would have been easier to think up a story. Yeah. I mean, nothing prepares you for what reliving the traumas of your life does to you and how it infiltrates your day-to-day living. But it also gives you clarity of who you are, where you come from, and who your people are.
And I definitely found when I was writing my memoir that if something really insane, awful would happen, instead of getting really, or I still could get frustrated or upset about it, but it would be, some part of me would be like, well, this will be good for the memoir. And it would make it a little easier to to kind of process it. And Parchin said something one time about how writing memoir makes her feel like she's on a mission or something. I can't remember how she worded it, but I really love thinking about it in that way.
Yeah, it's really, that what Anne Lamott said about, if you wanted me to write warmly about you, you should have behaved better.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot when I'm writing.
Yes, definitely. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I
Thanks
can't
for
wait to
having
see
me.
what
Thanks for
comes
all your
next.
work in publishing our stories.
My pleasure. All right. And our last story this evening is from Layla. Layla Saburian is an internationally recognized author, learning strategist, entrepreneur, and keynote speaker on innovations that support learning and knowledge sharing from the symbiosis of children and culture to achieve sustainable growth with a focus on engagement and well-being. Layla's recently completed memoir, Everywhere and Nowhere, is about a girl who loses her voice in Iran and finds it back in America. She is a former columnist for FSHN magazine and a blogger for Yahoo, eBay, SAP, and Logitech. Layla has recently completed work on a short documentary on Iranian social media ecosystem called Iranian Honeymoon, and you can find out more at laylasaburian.com. All right, Layla.
Hi, hi everyone. Okay, there are moments in life that pass us by in a dash, leaving behind no memory, no special awareness of time, space, nor any particular events taking place. Every so often, however, along strolls a little moment that fights its way up to our consciousness and captures us, holding time still, making us not only reflect on the actuality of the present, but urging us to look at what needs mending. In that hush, we see more clearly, we reflect, take stock, and feel the gentle push towards choices only the deepest part of us can truly make sense of. Do these moments actually have a soul of their own, mischievously demanding our attention, or are they a source of energy used by higher spiritual beings to confine our reflections? Perhaps it was just by coincidence then that on December 23rd, 2004, in the quiet chill of Paris, among all the blooms in the flower shop of Port Maillot in the 16th arrondissement, Giovanni could find only one bouquet, red tulips. Striking, bold, and somehow too fitting for what he was about to do. Make a love declaration that was, by every measure, inappropriate. I was waiting for him in the hotel lobby of Le Méridien, our favorite lodging during his visits. It was during a jazz concert a year prior that I had let him kiss me for the very first time. I could never forget that kiss. His big arms wrapped around me, an African singer singing Blue Moon with a thick French accent in the background, and our glasses of champagne filled all the way, untouched. That night, he had held me in his arms and told me, sorry, Christina, can you pull it up? I have this annoying thing on my screen. I can't see past this line. Or I can go to my own copy and read from there.
I can't actually pull it up.
Okay, my apologies. I'm just gonna read it from my screen then here. Yes. That night he had held me in his arms and told me how, in the light of the candles, I looked like Shahrazad out of the 1001 Nights, only more beautiful. It's not exaggerated what they say about Italian flattery. I'm not sure what made me give it to him that night, for every single moment I had ever spent with him had been magical. Perhaps it was the fact that Sinatra's Blue Moon had filled us with a great deal of what Brazilians refer to as saudade, a bittersweet nostalgia or longing, looking for something that we could not exactly put our fingers on. The singer had stopped by our table. Mes amis, it's by following the moon that you can arrive far. The Iranian poet Sohrab Sapehri once said that to follow the moon you must build a boat and travel by the sea. I suppose that's what we had done that night, Giovanni and me, without capturing the consequences, taking note of anyone else's existence or the world around us. And now here we were once more in the Meridian, our last encounter in Paris before he would finalize his divorce and we would start a new life together in London. I had been raised to believe that marriage was for life, but comforted myself in the thought that theirs was a completed story, that it had ended many months before ours had truly begun. I was lost in my thoughts, barely aware of the music or the flurry of Japanese tourists circling nearby, angling their cameras discreetly in my direction, hoping to capture a photo without drawing my attention. I didn't notice any of it until I looked up and saw him standing in front of me with his warm, familiar smile and a beautiful bouquet of red tulips. One little glance, and I was no longer the 20-something-year-old Californian model standing in the luxurious hotel in my 6-centimeter Dior stilettos and pleated skirt. I'm a 14-year-old Iranian girl in the Hajar school in the northern district of Tehran, staring at the red tulips next to my desk, a poor substitute for my best friend Elnaz, who has sat there for as long as I have known her. Looking around the classroom, I'm afraid, ready to assail anyone who dares to admit the unmistakable truth. Everyone's eyes are avoiding mine. The couture teacher, Mrs. Kermani, comes towards me, a cold smile sitting on her face, her eyes refusing to meet mine. Please do sit down. She fixes her eyes on the intricate patchwork Elnaz and I had been working on. Today we have a special tribute amongst us. You see, we have the privilege of having our very first Shahid murder in our classroom. The Hajar school has already had this privilege several times, but this is the first time our particular class is honored, and undoubtedly we must all take pride. Since the beginning of the Iran-Iraq war, the red tulips in Iran had come to represent the martyrs of war. Each time a person died in the war front or under the bombs, a red tulip was placed on their grave, on their door, or in the case of students, on their wooden benches. As only the mentors were allowed this privilege, it was considered an honor to receive a red tulip. Mrs. Kermani wants me to be proud and thankful to sit down next to a fresh red tulip in lieu of a green-eyed Elnaz who had high hopes of becoming an artistic duet, she the fashion designer and me the model, in Paris one day together. All I feel is pain, intense, unbearable pain. I shake my head and say no. As Mrs. Kermani approaches me, her yellow ruler in hand, the students looking at me, some have found the courage to stare directly at my face. Others are concerned with the whiteness of my features. My breathing gets faster, and I hear myself saying what I wanted to say all those years ago. I do not feel proud, I do not feel honored, and I do not feel privileged. I wonder if memory has petals too, and if they bruise when we touch them. Mrs. Kermani doesn't seem to understand. They're there now. You know how lucky Elnaz is. She's in heaven, sitting in a garden full of red tulips, eating lamb kebabs and laughing at us, being sad over nothing. Roses, I hear myself utter as my eyes close. Elnaz is allergic to tulips. I hate this war, this revolution, Saddam Hussein, and I gasp for air.
Whew. Powerful stuff. Is this in your memoir?
No, no.
Separate, standalone?
Because yeah, my memoir ends when I get accepted to college. So this is
Okay.
yeah. This is
I-
actually the first piece I've ever written, in English. When I first moved to the US after Paris, after this this story ends, I moved to San Francisco and I wrote this and first piece of fiction, then I didn't do anything with it till this your call came.
Well, I'm glad you shared it. It's really moving.
Thank you.
So did you say it was originally you fictionalized it and then, but it was your story, right? That you,
No, this is not fictionalized. This is my story.
okay, I think maybe you were meant to say nonfiction earlier then.
Mhm.
I think
I
that,
meant like not like I was writing for work, I was writing like
ah,
for Christian Dior, I was writing on fashion and tech.
okay,
Yeah, so it is nonfiction, but not like in that sense. It was not
yeah,
work related,
I
basically.
see. Yeah. Um, and I think right now you are writing a novel, right?
Yeah, my second novel.
And do you find that it's challenging, more challenging to write fiction or memoir?
Well, memoir was definitely more emotional. Um, as we have all experienced here, it's like a therapy, but it's also very emotional. You have to take a break because of all these losses and grief. But now I'm writing a historical fiction, so it's definitely more challenging to um, look up all the dates, or sometimes I'll get really driven by a character. I'll go in one direction, and I'm like, oh, it's so much better to write fiction because you can invent and go, and then you're like, oh shoot, the dates don't work, like this character died 10 years before this chapter that I just wrote. So you got to go back and the fact checking, and then everyone has an opinion. Like when I share it in critic groups, because with memoir, it's like it's your story, and still, I think we found even with your story, people try to say it's wrong, or your memory of it is wrong, or your family members say that's not what happened. But with fiction or historical fiction, it's like everyone has an opinion. It's like, no, this is the truth as they see it. So it's really hard to get the facts right. But yeah, it's a different learning experience.
Interesting. I wouldn't have thought of the fact checking being as big of a deal in fiction as it is.
I know. I call it historical fiction, but yeah, I guess the history has to be correct. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Um, and as far as your memoir, I know that I think that you were you considering fictionalizing it because you had some
Yeah, my memoir,
conflict.
I've fictionalized a bit. I've changed like location, places,
Mhm.
names. Yeah. And it's sitting with an agent, so let's see what she does with it.
Right.
Yes.
Keep us posted.
Thank you. hmm
Thank you so much for sharing.
Sure. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you everyone for your stories, and thank you everyone for listening. Does anybody have any questions or comments before we go? Just running just a few minutes late, but we did pretty good on time. Well done, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. No?
I'd just like to express appreciation for what you do for us. Memoir Mentors is a big part of my life, and I think it is for quite a few of us. yeah, we benefited, so many ways as writers and as people. So just to give you a big thank you.
Thank you. I couldn't do it without you guys.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. So I think in particular, so Christina, you serve as sort of our writing coach and editor and guide, but I think when people are writing memoir, you also sometimes you're a little bit of a therapist because I mean, as everyone who spoke to that, we've all experienced writing about your life can be gut wrenching. So I think it takes a gentle hand to guide people through that process. So, and you have that hand, Christina. So we all appreciate you.
Thanks, Brenda. All right. Well, wonderful job, everyone. Good job writing your stories, and maybe we'll have to start another one, but I need some time to rest first. It was a lot of work, but it was worth it. And really excited to see what everybody comes up with next. Until we meet again.
Thank
Have a
you, Chris.
wonderful time.